And I'd like to pick up on a conversation that we had at last year's hearing. And last year, our conversation focused on your e-commerce. And I will say, as a very happily married person for over 30 years, I know better than to say, I told you so. But little did we know that a month after our hearing, our Commonwealth and our country would be completely upended due to the pandemic. And at the time last year, you indicated that your e-commerce business accounted for less than 1% of overall sales. You had no specific time frame on a new website for your e-commerce, but you estimated that it would be somewhere between 3 and 4 months. And according to the National Alcohol Beverage Control Association, Pennsylvania was a major outlier when it came to alcohol sold last June, due in large part to the board's unilateral decision to shutter all of the stores and have an online experience that I would say was frustrating at the very least. Meanwhile, what we saw in other states was record growth. West Virginia had liquor sales grow 30.3%, Ohio 15.3%. Pennsylvania was down last year 5.3%. So your online web presence, or lack thereof, received a headline in the Patriot News entitled, "How One Central Pennsylvania Man Overcame Insurmountable Odds to Finally Place a Liquor Store Order." The article followed the effort of a Harrisburg public relations professional, Dave Latour, who made at least 35 trips to your online store over 23 separate days to finally place an order. And the pandemic showed us one thing, and that is the monopoly does not work. And when one entity has sole control, Mr. Latour's story was published, but I'm sure he was not alone in his sheer frustration. So you have a well-documented customer story, but I would imagine, it's hard to imagine that any other business that is literally turning away business every other day could continue to survive. You'd be out of business, and a competitor would certainly have seized the opportunity, but you have no competition except for those bootleggers who live along the border. And many of my constituents, they went to Maryland to purchase alcohol. We saw headlines of Delaware police warning Pennsylvania residents coming to their state to purchase alcohol. Neither of those states have a state monopoly on liquor retail operations. We do. So I think we can see a common denominator with our trends versus those of other states throughout the last year, government run versus private sector run. So share with me where we stand now. What have you done to completely get this up and running? And what reforms are needed to ensure that we have better customer convenience, like a direct shipping model?
Mike Nager, do you want to handle that? You work closely on the e-commerce section.
Well, sure. I mean, there's a whole bunch there. What are we doing? Well, we've talked today about the ERP system and what the new website's going to do. I'm just trying to digest everything that you said, Senator, and what the various questions that you had. We were very sorry, as the chairman said before, our website was never designed to be a sole source. It never was. We were doing some, I don't know, 250, 300 orders per day, and all of a sudden the entire Commonwealth wanted to order through the website. It was not, we were not ready for it, no way, shape, or form. And I don't think Amazon could have handled that. I don't think we could build a website that, not only, we might be able to take the orders, but we couldn't fulfill it. So what we've done through Mr. Demko's direction, and actually the previous executive director, Mr. Mooney, is that we expanded our ability to fulfill through our licensing service centers. We had stores fulfill. We had our e-com facility fulfill. We have brought in UPS as a consultant to make our e-com operations, our central e-com operations, more efficient. We are looking under every rock to make ourselves more efficient, and be able to provide a much better service to the customers that want to utilize our e-com services. So are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. We won't be there yet until we get the new website in place. Am I happy we don't have it now? No, I'm not happy we don't have it now. But we don't, and we're better off putting out something that's done right, and not just having it just to have it for habit's sakes. So I think hopefully that answers all your questions.
When do we expect that new website to be fully up and operational?
I'm so hesitant to give a date because of past failures, but I'm going to say in the middle of 22.
Very good. So along the lines of responsiveness to customers, I have a local distillery who wants to ship their product directly to consumers. I understand our traditional shipping entities are apprehensive because of liability challenges and how convoluted our liquor laws are. What's being done to work with shipping partners to provide this as an option for both our locally owned distilleries and their customers?
Maybe Mr. Diaz, our chief counsel, could address that.
Sure. You all can hear me? Yeah. Senator, a distillery can ship directly to consumers if they have a license from us. They can do it either themselves or they can use a transporter for hire. We have more than 200 transporter for hires licensed in Pennsylvania to deliver beer, wine, or spirits. Some of them focus on taking, for example, beer from a retailer to a consumer, but a lot of them are business or a distillery could certainly hire someone who has a transporter for hire license. We have received inquiries in the past because sometimes there's some confusion on behalf of the transporter as to whether or not they can do what the distillery wants. The distillery can write into us, to the chief counsel's office, and we'll be happy to put it all in writing, confirming that, for example, yes, transporter for hire, you can pick up that product at the limited distillery location and deliver it to this consumer, but make sure you do the following things: check the ID, et cetera, et cetera. And we have done that for distilleries and for wineries in the past.
Thank you. Well, and I also want to give a special thank you to Mr. Negra. We had some challenging, to say the least, licensing issues in York County this past year, and your attentiveness to each one was very much appreciated and noticed by not only me and my staff, but also the constituents I'm honored to represent. And I think the key takeaway from all of this is that as a retail, wholesale, and licensing entity, you have a lot on your plate, but you also must answer to your shareholders, and that is the taxpayers and the customers of Pennsylvania. So I thank you very much to all of the chairs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.